So thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a clinical sexologist, a certified sex coach, and I have a doctorate in human sexuality. I have a private practice that I've been in the field of sexuality for about 14 years. My private practice is about 2 years. I've been working with couples, working on intimacy and trying to spice up their sex lives, focusing more on women's issues and concerns regarding painful sex, postmenopause, how to have sex, trying to get pregnant during pregnancy, post-pregnancy, and all those things that women have to go through with low libido and hormonal imbalances. And then another focus is working with the LGBT community. I have a passion for working with people who are trying to figure out their sexual orientation, gender identity. And so those are a few of my favorite things to work with.
And where are you located?
I have an office in Lakeworth, Florida, and I do Skype calls as well. So I can work with people all over the world. I have people in all different countries and everything like that just from doing Skype. So I do that, and I do phone sessions. So it's very easy to be able to work with me or reach me.
So when I think of like a sex therapist, I think of the movie Meet the Fockers. Is that the episode? When was it? Meryl Streep.
Barbara Streisand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone who sees that, they're like, that's you.
Yes.
That's you.
Do you have one of those big blue wedges in your office space?
Not in my office space, in my bedroom maybe, but not in my office space.
Everybody needs one of those blue wedges.
Yeah, well, the difference between what I do and because I'm not an actual therapist, I'm a sexologist and a coach. So what I do that's a little bit different is I work with a little bit more of the healthier mindset, people that are not dealing with like depression, anxiety. I mean, they can still have that and still come to me, but I don't sit there and process through any of those abuse and trauma and things like that. So as a coach and a sexologist, I'm working more about with the body, the function, trying to connect the mind to their sexuality and working with people just to understand with sex education, positive sexuality. There's so many people that just have a very difficult time to connect themselves to their bodies as sexual beings, whether it be religious reasons, past trauma that they've already processed through, being able to get into relationships after, let's say they've been alcohol abuse or drug abuse, and they've gotten through that through therapy, but they're like, okay, well, now what do I do? I'm sober and I've never had sex sober. So how do we connect that difference from when they were always not sober, So that's a lot of the things that I do compared to what therapy does.
So I'm wondering, I had a question. It just flew out of my head. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Now I remember. One of the concerns that I get a lot in my office being a therapist is that a lot of times, like, antidepressants really kill libido. What is something like that you could recommend that could help with something like that?
Oh, that is so common because nowadays everyone's on some type of medication, right? Whether it's antidepressant, whether you have diabetes or high blood pressure. I mean, it affects a lot of the female and male dysfunction. So first of all, we have to find out what medication they're on, because there's many times that the medication they're on is very high in depressing your libido. So if it's something that they're able to work with their therapist or their psychiatrist and trying to get a different medication, that's one of the first things we try. There's a couple medications that don't really affect the libido as much, like Trintellix or Wellbutrin, things like that. But then there's other ones like Prozac and things like that that really do affect it. So sometimes that's one of my first recommendations. Also, with low libido, a lot of people, I ask them, when was the last time you've gotten your hormones checked or blood work? And people a lot of times don't, oh, God, it's been years. Well, you need to check to make sure that your estrogen levels are normal, especially if you're in, the mid-30s to mid-40s. Your hormones change. You start getting closer to menopause as you get closer to the 50s. So definitely do that first. And what people do a lot of times is they check for, let's say, estrogen and testosterone. And even with the males, when they go in, they get checked for testosterone. But a lot of times they don't get checked for their free testosterone. And there's a difference because you could have a certain amount of testosterone in your body. Let's just pick a number I'm just going to say so it's easy to think of. Let's say 100 testosterone. That could be bundled up and not being able to be fully released through the body, which is the free testosterone. So you need to make sure that that testosterone that they have in their body is able to be released. Oh. And so when you're testing the free testosterone, showing what is actually being used.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, because you don't think about like what is that? Yeah, like the testosterone, the estrogens, like it's always like, all right, I'm taking Zoloft now. Shop is closed down there, and I have to deal with that, right?
Exactly. And there are also some of those medications which, like I said, you want to make sure you check with your psychiatrist first. But some of them, if you know that you're going to be intimate, let's say that evening, you're able to maybe get off of it for that day and take it later on. Mm-hmm. So that way, some people, because they may still have a drive, but orgasm is difficult a lot of times. You can get to a certain point and you just can't get over that edge because of the medication, and people get frustrated. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you can delay when you can take that medicine when you know you're going to be intimate, and it helps you be able to have that orgasm and enjoy your time together better. But like I said, definitely you want to check with your doctor first to make sure the medication you're on is something you're able to do that with. Mm-hmm. So those are the basic things. I mean, otherwise it's all about, building desire. So many people, especially in long-term relationships, they go through the day, they don't really talk much, and they come home, they have their dinner, they work with their kids, they get into bed, and then they're expected to just be able to perform. Mm-hmm. And you're not taking the time to build that desire. So especially if you're on medication or whatever, you need to be able to at least give little blips of, flirting, or like, I can't wait to see you later, or let's go in the bath and take a shower together or something to spark it up, to get it started.
That's a good point. And society makes us feel like we have to be able to turn it on like a switch, right?
Right.
Because how boring is it to watch that on TV, like flirting throughout the day?
Exactly.
No, you got to be able to like pull those pants down and go.
Well, with men, sometimes it's much easier. Mm-hmm. They don't need as much primping and prepping as women do. Mm-hmm. But they do sometimes as well. So I'm not, saying that they definitely don't. But women especially, they have different stages of arousal. And one of the things that people forget is that the desire is a part of the arousal stage, and you can't get to that desire unless you're finding ways to build it. Mm-hmm. And women usually take at least 20 minutes when they're with a partner to be able to have an orgasm.
Holy shit, 20 minutes. That's hard to carve out sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, with a toy, you can't compete. But there's nothing that takes place of an actual human being. Mm-hmm. But that being said, with a toy, 2 minutes, you're done. But with a partner, it needs to build. And for women, it usually takes at least about 15 to 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So I have this theory. I don't know if you agree, but I feel like toys and vibrators and stuff like that, they put like an age limit on that. Like you can't buy that in a store until you're 18. I feel like that should be accessible.
Yes, and no. Okay. I think it just depends, but I do agree because there's people that are having sex much earlier. Mm-hmm. 18, I feel, is a little bit older. I feel that 16, but legally they talk about adults being 18. Mm-hmm. So I think that has a lot to do with where they're doing that, and they feel that toys are only for adults. But in reality, I mean, you say toys are for kids, but these toys, a lot of times, if these kids that are, teens that are 16 and older, I feel that are experimenting with their bodies, they may have a little bit more comfort knowing how their body works and not be so awkward in those early stages.
Yes.
And being able to understand that it's okay to be a sexual being, especially as a female. Mm-hmm. Because the females are usually the ones that use more of the toys.
Yeah.
And so when you're growing up, people are educated about abstinence, and they're not really educated about positive sexuality. And so when you have teens at the age of 16 or 17 or 18 learning about sex, it's not about pleasure. It's not about what is the idea of sex. Besides making babies, the only other reason that a woman has a clitoris is for pleasure. And the only other reason for sex for men and women is to enjoy. So that should be a very important point. And for people expecting that it's going to be easy, it's not always that easy. And I think it just leaves a kind of a sour message in some people when you're focusing just on the abstinence and not on focusing on pleasure.
Yeah, because I remember in health class, they always talked about male masturbation. I had no idea that women do it too until I watched the Seinfeld episode with the challenge or whatever it was. And I was like, what? Elaine does that? I had to learn from a TV show.
Right. Well, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame behind it. And, I work with, like I said, one of my specialties is working with women and orgasmic dysfunction and women that don't masturbate or don't even know how to masturbate. There's women that don't even know where their clitoris is because they're embarrassed to even look at themselves. One of the exercises that I use to help people at least be able to explore what they look like is a mirror exercise where you actually take a look at what you look like. Yeah. I mean, being a woman is a beautiful thing, and you should be able to appreciate what's down there, not even necessarily for sexual purposes, but for health purposes as well. Yeah. If you're not used to touching that area, you go take a shower and you're like, quickly rubbing all over the place. Take your time and rub a little slower. Yeah. And enjoy it a little bit more, or be able to, understand what it feels like. So, if something is wrong. And so, what parts feel good, because then when you're in a relationship, you're able to help your partner understand what kind of touches you like. Because one thing I hear very often is, he didn't give me an orgasm, or he doesn't know how to do it. He's doing it wrong. Well, why don't you teach him? Well, he should know. Why? You're not taught how to give a partner an orgasm. That's what I do. I teach people how to do things like that. But in regular, education, you don't learn these things. And so it's very important for people to be able to communicate with their partners, but they have to learn their bodies first. And so once they're able to understand that there's nothing shameful about masturbation, and that it is okay for women to experience pleasure and not just to get the guy off or their partner off and be okay with just letting them leave. And what about me? There's nothing wrong with speaking up and saying, hey, I want some of that. Yeah, absolutely. But you're taught to not say anything. You're taught to just be like, please the man or please your partner. And it should be about mutual experiences, mutual pleasure.
So what is a piece of advice you could give to other therapists out there who are working with clients who are struggling in this area?
In the masturbation area, or just
the sex area altogether? Maybe lack of intimacy, or anything. Like what should a therapist know?
Well, I think that so many times you lose focus as what intimacy is, and it's not just intercourse. And I'd like to tell people, you heard that saying, it's about the journey and not about the destination. And so if you want to have healthy sexuality and healthy relationships, no matter who you're with, you need to start with understanding that it's about about your pleasure as well as the other person's pleasure. So if you derive pleasure out of making your partner feel good, then know what makes your partner feel good. Know their love language. Know whether they need more affection and more attention, or I don't know if you've heard of the Love Languages book.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So if you learn about what your partner needs to feel loved and do those things, that's what's going to bring you a little bit more to the intimacy part, which eventually will bring you more into the bedroom part. I also believe that people don't kiss and hug enough. Yeah. So many times people come in and they're wondering why their love life's suck. And then I asked them, okay, well, when was the last time you gave your partner a hug? It's like, oh, well, we just hugged when we walked into the office. I said, no, not just a, little pat on the back, but when did you put your arms around that person and hold it for like 15, 20 seconds? Smell their skin, feel their heartbeat, feel the warmth of their body. And I did have, I'm actually getting goosebumps now thinking about it. I had a couple in my office that I said that to, and they looked at each other, and he leaned over to give her a hug and just put his arms around her and just held her and took like a smell of her hair and broke down and started bawling. Oh. And then he started crying because they don't remember what they smelled like. They don't remember what they looked like, what they felt like. It's because they're all about, oh, she's not having sex. She's not having sex. Or he's not, all he wants is sex, and all he wants is sex. And so it's all focused on the actual act rather than the building up to bring you to that act. So I always try to tell people when they're coming in for issues about intimacy, start from the beginning and work your way to the end.
So a therapist who might have a couple in their office might have this issue. So really exploring, like, where are they intimate outside the bedroom? Are they snuggling on the couch, or are they giving goodbye kisses?
Holding hands.
Holding hands, yep. Showing each other that they appreciate each other. So that starting from there and moving forward. So that's some advice. And then what happens? Love Language is a great book for probably any therapist to have, correct?
Yeah, I think it is very good because it allows people to understand their partner a little bit better, to understand what is their love language. Some people are more about, they get so excited they get a gift and they want to go jump in the sack. Other people are like, I don't need gifts, I don't need attention, just help me clean the house. And so the acts of service and doing things like that turns them on. For somebody else, it might be all touch. I just want my partner to touch me more. I want my partner to just give me positive affirmation and make me feel like I'm beautiful. Sometimes that's all it takes is just a little bit more attention, a little bit more of what their love language is to help them connect.
So
I work a lot with...
It could be from touching to washing the floors. So it's like different strokes for different folks.
Just quality time. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I work a lot with marriage and family therapists that get to a point where, they come in, they're having marriage difficulties and they're finally being able to work things out a little bit better. But then once you get to that point, you've been out of the intimacy for so long. How do you get back in there? So a lot of times, once you get to that point where it goes into the bedroom, that's when they send them to me. Because they have a healthier relationship together. And they're able to focus more on their intimacy, their skill building. There's a lot of people that are afraid to tell their partners, well, you're doing this wrong. You don't want to tell them they're doing something wrong. You just want to give them ideas on how to do it right. So there's a difference in how you communicate.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You're not going to say, oh, you keep touching me the wrong way, or you keep doing this. Rather than saying that, you want to say something like, oh, I love when you touch me on this leg or the right side of my chest, or, ooh, that area is really sensitive. Focus on, if a guy's going to hear that and you're like, ooh, that area is good, I'm going to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It helps them want to please you more. So you don't want to hide that.
So communication is key. I mean, that's key for most relationships is really communication, but even in the intimate areas too is
definitely
communication. Great.
Definitely.
Is there any other book you would suggest that therapists probably should read on this topic?
Oh, gosh. You know what? Of course, when you ask me, everything goes blank.
I'm a big fan of The Ethical Slut. That's one I always talk about.
That is a very good one. I know that for women, since like I said, I work a lot with women as well, for people that have orgasmic difficulties or low libido or ways to just, masturbate and just wake themselves up. Betty Dodson, I love her. She's amazing. She's got great books. She's got great videos. And sometimes a book is not going to give you what you need.
Yeah.
And so a lot of educational videos, not porn, but actual educational videos that you could watch where they actually walk you through the steps on how to do it and how to touch yourself and what areas to look for. And the videos are beyond helpful for many, many people. Yeah.
Nice. Yes. So we'll definitely have to link to those too.
Yeah. Betty Dodson is one of my favorites, just because. Yeah. Can you see me okay?
That sounds great. So So if anybody wants to get in touch with you or ask you any questions or actually work with you, how can they get a hold of you?
My website is drstacy.org, and that's DRSTACY. There's no E in my name. So it's drstacy.org. And all my information is on there. I'm also on Facebook under Dr. Stacy Friedman. And I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on all these other things. So it's either Dr. Stacy or Dr. Stacy Friedman. And my phone number in local is 561-899-7669.
Awesome.
So you can either go to my website, call me, or hook up with me on my Facebook page.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Stacy, for meeting with us today. You shared so much valuable information.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you again and having a great conversation next time.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely have this as a podcast. And I have another podcast going. So we'll definitely have you on that as well.
Awesome. I love to spread positive sexuality.
Me too.
All right.
All right. So we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
All righty. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.